Welcome back to the Morehammer podcast, your weekly podcast where we talk all things Warhammer from the past week and have some general good fun hobby chat. This week we look back at Games Workshop through to the present and talk where things could go for the future of the hobby. We take some community questions and of course we will have our usual Warhammer 20 questions. I am one of your hosts, wargamingluke, but as always, joining me are my amazing co-hosts. First up is Simon, aka Hobby Waffle. How are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, very good, thanks. How are you?
Good, mate. Good, thanks. And of course, Ben, 90% Geek.
Still bubbling over with exuberance over here.
And then we have a very special guest this week joining us, legend of the White Dwarf, so I hear, and that is Nick Davis, Games Workshop fame. How are
Hey, welcome.
Hey everybody, how you all doing?
Hey!
Great to have you on, bud.
It's my English and American accent there. So,
and I do hear, and we did hint at this before we actually started, but I hear that you're also known as the Lizard Man. Is that correct?
Aha!
one of the many things I've probably dragged from all my time in White Dwarf, Lizard Man, the Imperial Guard player, and Dark Elder as well, as various other little things I did along the way. Mainly the guy who basically made terrain out stuff you could find in the trash can. So,
And the guy who broke spirals, let's not forget that as well.
oh yeah, so I was the guy who broke the spiral rules that made them so hard for everybody else.
All right.
But yeah, Ben had sort of mentioned before we went kind of live to record, but I am a massive Seraphon fan, so hopefully maybe we can, especially, I mean, we've been having a bit chats here and there over X and whatnot, but or Twitter as I still call it, but
You called it X.
I know.
Brand X.
But yeah, definitely something in common there with the Lizardmen. But yeah.
Definitely.
But Nick, we do always ask every new guest that comes on to the podcast the same questions. So if you could only pick one kit or box to take with you on a deserted island, what would it be?
Oh, is that a kit or a box set?
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
What would you choose if it wasn't those two?
What would I choose if it wasn't a kit or a box?
Yeah, you said that as if to kind of say, does it have to be? So what would...
Oh, no,
And
I
you
just
do
got a kit.
Oh, okay.
And you do
Right,
get any
right.
hobby supplies you might need as well. So any paints,
Yeah,
glue,
yeah,
so
glue,
I've got
anything like
paints.
that, you get all
We
that.
kind of expanded it to box set because people wanted to take things like the entirety of Morehammer with them and stuff.
Wow. I just
So,
got
yeah.
quite-
This guy!
Oh my gosh, that sounds like the playtesting for Mordheim.
We'll get into that, don't worry, I want to ask about that, definitely.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna keep it nice and simple actually, because I didn't actually know we were gonna be I could actually bring hobby supplies along with me, but the set I would take with me onto a desert island all by myself would be well, I'll see if you guys recognize it from the serial number first, and we'll go from there. Okay, it's the A01071B set.
Ben's
Now-
going to be the one to know this, if anybody.
Ben might know this, but it's as a kit. As a kid, you pretty much was the first one you ever made. So I can be 20 quid for that.
Is that by any chance the single pose Chaos Warrior?
No.
Ah,
If somebody hasn't guessed it yet, if like Ben hasn't guessed it, if yeah, before Nick actually says it, comment down below. Let us know
Yes.
if you've got it first.
if you got that first.
Yeah,
Okay.
go on, Nick.
Well,
It's not like the
if you like me
basic
to
space
reveal,
marine
I will
tactical.
reveal. So
Mhm.
okay. So I was told it could be anything. So I did pick something that was basically, it was very special to me. That basically got me along this long road of basically building toy soldiers. It's the A01071B Supermarine Spitfire Mark 1A. From
Oh,
Ooh, nice.
okay.
Good choice.
You are now talking my language.
Nice,
Yes.
nice.
Yes. So it was the first ever kit I ever got as a kid. And
That's cool.
it's actually a very simple one to build, but when you're like 8 years old and you're given this set, it's got these things you have to clip out, and you have to use the polystyrene glue, which I'm not even sure that even exists as a thing anymore. It was very complicated, and then you had to like paint the pilot before you put him in the cockpit, and then you had to glue the cockpit on top without getting and it's polystyrene
Get
cement.
your fingerprints on the canopy and stuff.
Yeah.
So the finger over everything.
Yeah.
And you're getting high on the fumes from the glue.
Yes, they didn't tell you that bit of the polystyrene cement, but that's red-faced 8-year-old child. And then I I built it and I painted it with
Nice.
humble paint. So
Humble
basically,
paints.
add more to those fumes,
Yep.
and then I stuck it. I hung it from the wall and on three pieces of like thread. So yeah,
Excellent.
that
I think
was
I had a
basically-
very similar experience to that, but with a Harrier GR3.
Oh,
Same kind of thing, built, painted, snapped it off the sprues because there was only like 8 or 9 or whatever. Threw it all together with polystyrene, I think with Yoo-hoo glue or something like that.
Oh my gosh, yes, I know that glue.
And then painted it with Humbrol enamel paints, getting high off the paints, and then stuck it on my bedroom ceiling with some cotton.
Yep.
Is that the Hurricane kit that had the movable down jets, so you could change the position of the jump jets?
Well, yeah, but I don't know if I actually glued them in place or not. But I just remember it being a Harrier GR3 because I was obsessed with that. And
I
the
know that
F14
set. I
Tomcat,
think I probably
one
built
of
that.
my planes as a kid.
I had one of those, but if you built it right, you could move after you built it, you could move the jump jets. I have memories.
At least if you're on the island with that as well, you can pretend that it's come to rescue you, Nick.
That's right. I figured it's a very small plane, so if I just put it like on a rock and just look at it, it's always coming towards you. It gives me hope.
That'd be cool. No, that's a great one. I love having stuff that isn't necessarily Warhammer as well. Just bring it, and especially something like that inspired you to kind of get into maybe other like the hobby that we're talking about now.
That was the start of the long slippery slope. Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. But before we move into kind of the main sort of topic that we're going to discuss for the week, and I will leave hobby roundup this week until later in the episode because we do have a question from one of our viewers, which kind of ties into that, so we'll sort of tie it in later on with that question. But in case you aren't already subscribed to the channel, guys, please do if you're watching on YouTube, or follow us if you're over on Spotify. And if you're on neither, then go over to either. Listen on Spotify, watch us on YouTube. Do both of those good things. Like, comment, all that good jazz. Nick's doing the good stuff right there.
Just pointing generally in every direction.
Yeah, he is.
That usually works.
It does.
So yeah.
And then also, as always, do join us over in Discord for the chat. We have some great chat over there around the hobby, so please do. I will leave all those links in the description below this video. And also, one last thing, shout out for Ben here. Over on his channel, he did do a 3-part interview up to about 2.5 hours worth, chatting to Nick over on his channel. With a full-length interview, really deep diving into his kind of history and what he's up to and whatnot. I recommend going over and checking that out. I will drop that as a link in the description in place of what Ben's channel would usually be, and you can go and check that out.
I'd also say keep pressing Ben for the director's cut.
The bits that we left out on the cutting room floor.
Was there plenty that was also left out?
There were some bits that had to be cut out.
Fair enough. Okay. Maybe we'll get the comments for that then. We'll see. Ben, what's it time for?
And now the news.
And so we go into the first bit that we've had kind of drop today, and that is a new Skaven Warlock Engineer model, and his rules actually as well. We also got his rule sheet, but we'll take a quick look at the model. Any thoughts, guys, on this the new model?
I think it's brilliant.
I think it's awesome. I really want to take the little head spike thing off and just balance a rat on his head with a little telescopic eye. I want him to have like a telescope rat perched on top of his head as well. But I think he's really, really cool.
I'm amazed what you guys can do. I mean, back in the day, this would be a big lump of metal.
Yeah,
the casting process and the way they make the toy soldiers nowadays is amazing. What you can pull out of it. That is top notch Skaven. Though I would go the rat thing that Ben said. So
the one on his shoulder needs a friend. That's why.
Exactly. Yeah.
It compared to most Skaven, this guy looks like quite the gentleman as well. I must say, like
he's like well seasoned, doesn't he? Hello, chap. I'm going to shoot you with my arquebus now, but first, do you have a cup of tea?
Do we think he's going to be one of the ones in the starter box as well? Do we think he's one of the ones that's going to come in the new starter box?
I would imagine so.
Everything they're showing probably will be. I would say at this point. I'd say. I mean, we're obviously going to have a solid number of weeks yet. Them just releasing models per week.
I mean,
to drag it on.
July for the release, haven't they?
Yeah. So we've got 2 months left, 2 months probably.
Released. Sneaky peeks.
Yeah. I think the best thing to do would be look at when they've revealed the full Leviathan box. And then try and work out when they'd reveal the full sort of Age of Sigmar 4th edition box.
And it makes me think that we might see the new Warp Block Giselles next week, or the week after, if it's not Stormcast.
Yeah, because when was it? It was Warhammer Fest. We saw the full Leviathan box, didn't we? And that was end of April, early May. So I think maybe a couple of weeks we might see the vast majority of it.
It's true, yeah. Maybe they want to kind of reveal some of the main models from each and then kind of push from there. We'll have to wait and see. But that was sort of one of the main models that dropped today. But the other one, I think, was even more exciting. And we will switch over to that and share this one instead. It is Gombrundle, ready for the 500th issue of White Dwarf. And how amazing, Nick, that this dropped on the same day that we were due to have you on. I couldn't believe it. So I thought it was
almost
perfect.
Like just as planned.
Yes.
Wow.
And look at that model. That is beautiful.
I have seen so many White Dwarfs models in my time. This is probably the best one so far.
Yeah.
So
I need that on a square base in my army.
I knew you were going to say that.
Right now.
Begin the count.
You know what,
how
Ben?
long it takes.
That would look really good
on square base.
We look really good on a square base.
The dwarf board that they revealed the other day that was being carried on the shield. Put him on the shield instead.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they've said that he's getting the rules for most of the fantasy-based Games Workshop
But
games.
It didn't say Old World, though, did it?
No, it did
not. Old World, no.
I'm wondering if that's going to come as like a last-minute surprise, like if they haven't announced it, because it's going to be, oh, and hey, when dwarves land, by the way, here's the rules for the White Dwarf, which would be really cool.
Because that'll be the next pre-orders for Old World, won't it? So.
Well, he's had at least 2 previous sets of rules in White Dwarf. The issue 200 miniature, they published rules for him in White Dwarf, and the issue 300 miniature, they published rules for him in White Dwarf. So I can't see why they wouldn't for this dude as well.
They've also got some of the old models in here as well. So, it'd be exciting to get hold of him. I'll definitely be getting hold of this guy. And I said earlier, I've got Bugman and Gotrek, the most recent models for them. So it'd be nice to add him to those on the shelves.
Yeah.
Because Gotrek had that similar kind of scenic style base, didn't he? So it's nice to see the White Dwarf get his upgrade.
It's just a beautiful piece of sculpting, and actually the artwork that's on the cover of issue 500 of White Dwarf as well. The artist was sharing the picture of it over on his Twitter feed, and it's a beautifully hand painted piece, which kind of just takes both from the old world aesthetic, but also brings in some of the new Age of Sigmar stuff as well. It's really cool, and that's what's going to be the cover of issue 500.
Yeah, I'll definitely be picking up both. Can't wait.
I really hope that they sell the artwork as like an art print or something as well, because I'd buy that happily to stick on the wall of the war room.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, they do sell some of the artwork, don't they, on the merchandise site? So it wouldn't surprise me to see that one appear, especially with it being such a milestone issue as well.
But so moving into kind of main topic that we're going to sort of have for this week, and what we're going to do is let Nick take us kind of through his history and his background with sort of Games Workshop, bringing us kind of up to when he left, and we'll sort of then bring that into kind of modern day, I suppose, Warhammer, and we'll take a look at it in that respect, and I'm sure we'll hear from Nick, and we'll try to encourage him back into the fold, I think.
Offer our sage-like advice on how to get back into the hobby.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, Nick, take us away, I suppose, as best you can from sort of your beginnings, how you sort of made your way into kind of Games Workshop as a workman, I suppose.
After the Spitfire.
Okay, well, way back in the way mists of time, there was. We thought it was good. No, I'll just try to summarize very briefly what basically took me and Ben the best part of probably 3 hours to get. I do recommend for a full thing to check out Ben's videos.
That's what I say. Definitely.
That's the too long, don't read version. This is the short version.
This is the short version, and I would say the only reason I'm actually sitting here now is because it's all Ben's fault. So I want to get that out of the way now. But yeah, so I just finished working for a company called John Carr & Associates. They're the ones that basically sent me over to Sweden for a few years to basically work for Volvo Car. And I came back to the UK, and the company had gone bankrupt. And I was sitting around trying to figure out what I was going to do next with my life. And I thought I gave the Games Workshop job number a call. And I said, "Oi, I know what an orc and an orc is. Give me a job." And I ended up working. The AXE ended up putting me through to the mail order department, and I got a job at Games Workshop as a mail order troll. Now, a little strange timing on that, because basically, apparently the week before, they just fired the entire middle of the section for dipping into the pockets at Games Day. So it was a little fortuitous timing for me there. So I spent about a year, I think a year and a half, basically doing all the troll stuff, which is basically.
So what year was this, Nick, when you were doing the mail order stuff?
I'm sorry, Simon?
What year was this when you were doing the mail order stuff?
God, it's all the 90s all kind of merged together, and I told Ben I'm a reliable narrator, but I'm thinking it's probably about 94, 95, I reckon.
Okay.
I think that kind of like syncs with a few things, but the 90s was just weird. I was like, at the start of the 90s, I was just basically in high school, then I was in college, and then I was in Sweden, and then I was here, and it's like, where did the entire decade go? So I think probably 95 is probably a better year, but for the life of me, I can't remember when it all came together. So I spent like a year basically picking orders and working my way around the mail and stuff, and became known as probably the most accurate order picker there. One of the slowest, but one of the most accurate. And then basically the mail order head left. It was Tim. Oh, I can't remember second name. His name was Tim, and he left and basically got took over by Ed Spedegue. And Ed Spedegue changed a few things around, get the ordering faster. And he said, "You know how to do graphic design?" So I said, "Yeah, my previous job, I was a technical designer type person." He said, "What are you doing here?" "Need the money." I got moved into doing mail order promotions for like about 7 months. I basically took mail order promotions and did the old photocopying the miniatures on the photocopy and did the layouts that way. And from there, I got tapped to move to the studio. So I spent probably a good couple of years in the studio doing basically miniature game design. Not game design. That sounds grandiose. That's not miniature game boxes. One of the reasons that me and Ben bumped into each other on the vast interwebs is he was posting retro pictures of old toy soldier boxes, and I commented a couple saying, "I took the picture on that, and I took the picture on that." And do you know how complicated it is not to have those bows and those swords interlapping, and how much of a nightmare shooting Chaos Warriors and horses actually was? So we talked about that a little bit. So I did about 1.5 years doing that.
You started in White Dwarf in '97. That's when your issues of White Dwarf started.
Yeah.
That would make about sense.
That made my sense. So basically, I transitioned from basically the box packaging to basically the big box production, basically where the Warhammer games and that sort of thing are made. And I did Dogs of War as an army book. That was my first thing. And I will not tell you the nightmares we had we had to make that green, Mediterranean green. And the amount of arguments we had with the reproduction houses at the time. That green is not green enough. So that Dogs of War book is pretty much a work between me and a guy called Mark Saunders. We did that entire book, and occasionally, and I actually upset Nigel Stillman with that book.
This has got your name in it.
Oh my gosh, I probably was on the contributor articles at that time. So there's actually
249. This one.
What number is that again?
249. 25 years of Games Workshop.
Good lord, yeah, that's close.
It's got your name in the front cover.
Oh my gosh, wow. So if you look in the Bozino's Galloper guns there, I typed some color copy now, basically about how the mercenaries wore their colors on their tunics to basically represent them as units. And Nigel saw I put some color copy in there, and it was only supposed to be a filler. And Nigel got upset at me. And having Nigel getting upset, he was like getting attacked by a very angry kitten. Because he's going to give him a hug. It's like, I'm sorry, man. But after that, we basically after that I did the entirety of 40k Codex 3rd edition. Did some contributions.
That's probably not far off when I first came into the hobby. That would have been probably my first rule book into the hobby.
Yeah, because you did mention in the pre-show, it was like you started with Warhammer 5, right? So yeah, that's
well, fantasy, yes, 40k, yeah. So 40k that would line up, wouldn't it? Not far
so
off.
All the diagrams and a lot of photography for Warhammer 40k 3rd edition is pretty much me. Mainly me and Mark Saunders did the work together, but all the diagrams that he made got died in a server error. So we had to redraw almost half of the how to play top down stuff, and we did that in a program freehanded called Oldest Freehand. which is basically would really date me if the people out there go, oh, I know all this freehand. That was back when they basically had to prescribe things in stone. So from there, I did a couple of articles for White Dwarf because basically I was amassing a huge Imperial Guard army and a huge Lizardman army. I think 219 is probably when I had some Imperial Guard stuff appearing in there. And then I was building a lot of scenery for my Lizardman army at that time because I was just learning how to do scenery. There we go, there, rock on. And it was massing all over my table because it's the studio at that time. I'm not sure what it's like now. It's all open plan studio, so basically we had no privacy from each other. So if you was picking your nose, somebody on your side of the studio could see you picking your nose. So I was basically piling up Lizardman terrain around my desk, along with Lizardman models and various other bits of debris. And Paul came over and said, "Hey, do you want to write an article about doing Lizardman terrain in White Dwarf?" And I went, "Yes."
Of course.
Of course I do. Thinking, great. I've always wanted to do an actual article for White Dwarf because way back, White Dwarf was the first thing. Was my after Spitfires, and over World War II debris. It was Lord of the Rings, and then it was White Dwarf. Picking White Dwarf the first time, going, what is this game? And I'm trying to figure out what dry bushing was. Moved me. Fast forward on back again to basically Paul started saying, "Hey, you want to do the senior article?" So I sat down in my free time, basically after work, and I did the first Jungle Fever article, which appeared in White Dwarf 223, if my memory is absolutely correct, but it may not be. So hopefully somebody down in the comments will either correct me, or one of you guys will. I presented it to him saying, "Hey, this is the best that I can do based on the templates you've given me. Here's I've done all the photography for you. I've done all this and that." And he says, "Great, fantastic, great." He takes it off me and goes, "We're going to put this in White Dwarf, this 223. Oh, and by the way, you're now hired for White Dwarf." And I went, so
yeah, that's what a moment though. That's amazing.
What's quite a moment.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to basically write a couple of articles for White Dwarf. And the 12-year-old kid who picked up White Dwarf, probably 96, I think. 96 was my first dwarf. Look at that. You see, now Ben's looking at my
Ben's like a library for
223.
Oh my God! Look at that young innocent kid there. Only he knew what he knows now.
Jungle Fever. I love this.
Jungle Fever. Oh yeah, Jungle Fever.
And right next to it is Diggernob as well for Gorka Morka.
Diggernob.
What an issue.
That was a fun issue. It was a fun thing to do, and there's my entire army of Chromie Toti.
Awesome.
My goodness, you got an older hand there. So I basically started. I said basically a lot. So I'm gonna get out of that now. I started doing all the White Dwarf work. I started doing like little articles in it. I did a lot of the background production work. So a lot of the advertorial stuff that you saw or just general layout that's basically had like one of the designers' names attached to it. I was the guy doing that. I also had to collate and check all the films and all the chromolines. Now, chromolines is a thing that basically gives you, it's taken from a high resolution print of all the frames in the files, and it gives you a nice shiny object of what the page should look like at its best. Now, we print on toilet paper, so it doesn't look like that at all. So
it's a test of time pretty well.
I know, but it is basically the paper's a huge sponge. So so basically, whatever you got in the chrome never matched the colors in the book. So it was my job to basically make sure everything matched together and everything collated, and I collated the issue together, gave a Bible, which is basically all the pages, to Paul, and Paul would take it to the higher ups and go, "Hey, this is how we want to do White Dwarf." And then he gets told how they want White Dwarf to look like. So I did that for a while. Moved into basically writing a lot more articles for White Dwarf. Painted a lot more armies, didn't we? Did a lot of different things. And with the help of Paul, and Paul said basically he wanted us all on the team to basically express the hobby and the joys that we had the hobby, and to show how easy it was. We did a lot of that stuff in this White Dwarf. I can't comment on White Dwarfs after the fact, but it felt like a time that basically we were trying to push what we could show in the magazine. We had everybody in the team was a almost, well, what's the word? It's like this street hobbyist. We could we built things out of nothing and that kind of stuff. And so we were like, playing these games all our lives, and it's an opportunity to basically show our joy of these games. And I did that up to 2000. 2000 ended my stint at UK White Dwarf by August 2000. And I moved to the US because I met a girl online, and we fell in love, and boy meets girl, and that sort of thing. And I thought, I'll go to the US and find my fortune. And I came to the US, surprised that everybody didn't have blue hair and yellow skin, so that was a bit of a surprise for me. And spent a year waiting for my work permits and that kind of stuff, and then called Games Workshop US and said, "Hello, my name's Nick Davis. You may remember me from these articles in White Dwarf, blah, 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 blah. I'm in the USA looking for a job. Do you have an open position?" And they said, "Sure, come on down, drive all the way down to Baltimore." And I was in Wilkesboro, Pennsylvania at that time. I was like, Baltimore's around the corner, isn't it? "Oh, no, it's a 3-hour drive." Oh. So the first time I went down to Baltimore HQ, I was in a clapped out light blue Ford Escort. Which not the Ford Escort that you'd think of, but the American version of a Ford Escort, which basically was like really bad. And I drove all the way down there, and I spoke to a guy called Jeremy, who was the head of studio, and he says, I didn't realize you was in the country. We would love to have you back, have you come back in. We don't have any positions on White Dwarf, but we got positions on the website. The website was still kind of new back then. I think it was 1999, where basically UK gamesworkshop.uk.co.uk. It was actually launched as a website, and it was just a page. So the US website was actually considered really advanced because it had actual web designers working on it. So 2001 is probably a good time to say I started working on Games Workshop White Dwarf, gamesworkshop.com. And basically I was building the catalog sections where you can order online back then. And I did that for about 8 months. Contributed some articles to basically White Dwarf. The Warband rules are my fault. Lord of the Rings came out, and basically I started doing a lot of Lord of the Rings stuff. Oh, fun tip about Lord of the Rings. I'm going off a quick tangent here, so I do apologise.
It's all right.
I had a sign.
Lord of the Rings.
You remember
I remember this.
When the Lord of the Rings movies came out, I had to sign an NDA. Because we couldn't talk about the Lord of the Rings movies, but so we had to sign this NDA. I did actually look at pictures for the actual Lord of the Rings movies, and I was really excited about signing this NDA. And it's like an NDA like 15-year lifespan on it. So I was like, okay, I could sign up for an NDA for 15-year lifespan and not talk about Lord of the Rings movie for 15 years. Yay! And it's great. I'm excited, and we're going to see this never seen before part of the movie, and it's going to be one of our pre-release miniatures. It was Gandalf on the cart. So we had
where he's coming into the Shire.
When he's coming into the Shire, yeah.
Yeah.
This gets better though. I couldn't talk about that part of the movie for 15 years.
Yeah, because of the NDA. Yeah.
Because of the NDA.
Wow.
My kid grew up and basically graduated to Coast Guard stuff and that kind of thing, and I could finally talk to him about Gandalf on a cart going into the Shire.
I love the idea of you sitting him down going, "Son, now is the day that I'm finally going to talk to you about that most important of things, which is Gandalf on his cart." It was really exciting because we thought we were going to see like the Balrog or something like that, and we got to see Gandalf on a cart, and you can feel the entire US studio room going, "Is that it?" But so basically, I worked on White Dwarf. I went from games the miniature catalog, US White Dwarf had a position open, which bizarrely enough I had an audition for some reason. But it was like really? I have to audition? Well, here's what I do. White Dwarfs. Have a read of these.
Here's a couple of articles, ideas for you guys. And they said, okay, we'll pick you up and we'll run with you. So I did another year in US White Dwarf, and after that, me and Games Workshop parted, and I'm going to keep that bit as quiet and normal as possibly can. If you want to know the full reasons of what happened, go check out Ben's 90% Geek 3 hour long video.
3, I think it was.
Yeah. I keep bugging you for the director's cut because you could get 5 hours out of it. So that's the quick summarizer where basically I found myself back in 2002 when I was let go by the company. I played a lot of Lord of the Rings at the time because Lord of the Rings is what got me into the hobby. after the Super Me Spitfire. And Lord of the Rings basically was my exit point at the hobby as well. So I played that, played a couple of tournaments for Lord of the Rings stuff, and then basically life stuff took over. Me and the hobby separated for quite some time. Now, over that time, I did keep my eye on things. Read a few things like Toy Soldiers, spoke to some of my friends, hit friends here and there in the actual, still in the Games Workshop. And I find myself here now. It's been almost 2 decades disconnected from the hobby in general, in terms of basically really working on it. I will say some heretical words here, but you can't burn me down to in the USA, so ha. I have played some games with BattleTech in between because I just enjoy.
It's really popular local to me, actually. BattleTech, it's massive here.
Yeah, so I just enjoyed blowing bits of mechs and that sort of thing.
Plus, who doesn't like giant mecha?
Indeed, and it was also I'm going to say this word again. The entry point for BattleTech was cheaper, so which sounds horrible. No, please buy Games Soldiers. They're beautiful, but I limited funds and that sort of thing. So I'll just play occasional game of BattleTech, and it cost me like $70 to basically all in to basically play games of it, and that was fine by me. And it was easy to pack away and put away, and that kind of stuff. So, and that's where I ended up now, where we are here. Back in 2023, some guy called Ben contacted me.
Here we are.
I think I said something like, "Are you the Nick Davis?" Like a capital T.
Yeah.
We're going about at my point. You said, "Are you the Nick Davis?" And I'm going, "I'm the Nick Davis."
There's an award,
I guess. Yeah.
Who is the Nick Davis? So Ben contacted me. We did interviews, and we are sitting here right now mainly because of I think Ben actually. So
yeah.
Well,
you applaud me, but then when I get you back into the hobby, your wife's going to hunt me down and kill me.
I mean, we can get into that now if you want to. It's sort of like you said, how you sort of how this has come up.
They got dragged back in.
Yes,
Well, like I said, it's still all Ben's fault.
Fine, mea culpa.
Yeah. I do have, even though I've not played this game for such a long time, when I played it and when I basically was my golden era of gaming, I had so much fun. I really enjoyed basically playing with toy soldiers. I enjoyed even more explaining some of the mysteries about how to collect and paint toy soldiers. And the reason I say mysteries is because when I first picked up White Dwarf, and I'm pretty certain it's White Dwarf 96, it talked about dry bushing in the heavy metal section. And you're a 12-year-old kid, and there's no explanation in the entire magazine what dry bushing is. You're going, what beep is dry bushing? Nowadays, I'm assuming it's still a valid toy soldier painting technique, but I've seen the contrast paint and that kind of stuff. It's like, maybe it's not something used as much anymore. Is when I got into White Dwarf and started basically doing work proper like terrain and toy soldiers and that kind of thing, I got to explain to that 12-year-old kid back what this was all about. This is what dry bushing is. This is what we mean by white glue. This is PVA, white glue. This is what we do, but we mean by flocking and sanding and painting and undercoats and base coats. And taking these really simple concepts which will boggle the head of a kid, or maybe a new person coming into the hobby and going, what is this stuff? And saying, look, it's really easy. This is what it is. This is what a base coat is. And don't worry about trying to paint your toy soldiers to the heavy metal standard. That's aspirational. If you paint to like this standard, that's fine. If you just get some paint on it, it's absolutely fine. You game the way you want to game. There's absolutely, and you share that joy of the gaming. You build your terrain. Yes, you can buy the terrain packs. And I'm looking in the past week at various other Games Workshop retail racks. They do a lot more terrain than they've ever done before. In fact, I think they encourage you to basically buy the stuff or build the stuff now. But back in my day, we had to build the stuff, but we had no idea how to build it. And I basically started going like, look, it's a box, and now it's a building. When you stick it together with
it's some boltwood, here's some foam. Now it's a hill. Now it's covered in flock.
Yeah, that's a hill. Now it's this piece of polystyrene packaging. Now it's basically now it's a bunker, and it's just showing these very simple things that did actually appear in Rogue Trader First Edition, and to basically go, this is as simple as this. You don't need to spend all this money on all this stuff. You can make a hill and put some books underneath it, a green sheet.
Yeah.
And that's how I basically approached all my work in White Dwarf. And I had so much fun talking about it, so much fun talking about toy soldiers, and basically doing the thing that I always wanted to do, and basically telling people all about it. And I had a lot of fun. I got a lot of inside track on a lot of stuff back in that day, and it was just joy. So we fast forward to now, okay, and this is like probably when I entered the fray. What happened was probably going for probably going for a couple of weeks before that, and from my understanding, and this is, remember, I'm old now, so from my understanding, from my point of view, there was a huge hula in the Warhammer community. Let's just call it Warhammer community as a whole, okay? About the Custodes. Now, Custodes back in the day, Custodes back in the day when we started 40k were basically guys in a cloak with leather pants on, bare chested, and a sea helmet on their face. So I'm going, bye. That's my better half leaving now. Hey lads, I'm free. Let's go party. But back in the day, Custodes were a faction that never left the Imperial Palace. In fact, I don't think they ever left the inner palace unless they were on some kind of like errand to the outer palace. So they just bare-chested cloaks, laser lance, which basically was a fancy las rifle. So people are like shouting, "Oh my God, how did Dennis do to my Custodes?" So I had to go look up and see what the Custodes were, and I'm going, "Wow, they've changed a lot." But little did I know how much the change would be. So the Custodes, so they're basically giant space marines now. Okay, that's fine.
It's quite interesting because you had that gap. So like the last time you probably looked at them properly, and you've actually had that gap and looked at them literally recently and thought, "Oh wow, okay."
I was like, "Cool, they're gigantic space marines in golden armor."
Yeah.
And I also thought was basically, "Oh, that's really easy to paint." So
yes, that's true.
It's probably why they're a playable faction. But what I heard, what the other thing that basically I've been the Custodes of is apparently there was a paragraph that said they may be females in the Custodes, and it's like, okay, I'm like going, fine, whatever, that's fine, cool. You don't actually know who's wearing that armor, so hey, as long as it's not like boob armor, it's fine. So and then there's this big hoo-ha that happened at the same time, and it's probably happening still right now. It's basically about LGBTQ representation in the games. Mm-hmm. Again, I have no issue with this whatsoever because it's like, so, and so I made a post, and bearing in mind, I only just started doing some retrospectives about White Dwarfs, probably about 6 weeks beforehand. Again, Ben's fault. Basically taking the White Dwarfs that I worked on and basically just stepping through them, explaining some of the articles and some of the background stuff and why this page fell apart and who did the page numbers down the bottom corner. They
are really, really interesting videos. If you haven't watched,
I'll put a link down to Nick's for you guys to check it out. So I'll put all the links there. So.
Oh, thank you, Luke. I appreciate that. Yeah, and so I thought I'll post a little article, and we're not even an article. It's basically a tiny soliloquy about basically, why me as an old farty gamer from back in the day has zero issues with women in golden armor and zero issues with the LGBTQ community being represented in the games that I enjoy. And also I posted saying, this is probably what caused the most issue, I think, saying the lore, the background of the games is mutable. It can change. I know it can change because I've been playing Warhammer since first edition. Where they and I played Warhammer second edition, where they basically you could go down to Lustre and pick up a bolter gun for Warhammer Fantasy Battle. So I know.
Yeah, the lore is fluid at the end of the day, isn't it? So.
I mean, huge chunks of the lore was published in White Dwarf. It was just released in kind of dribs and drabs in monthly installments.
That box right there that you can see over my shoulder, Warhammer 40,000 second edition, quite possibly one of the best ever. Codex Imperialis, that book said some of the Primarchs had the powers of invisibility. Yeah. That was official in the lore, but they're gone, never to be mentioned again.
So it's kind of now thrown in by Corax, that Corax is just really unnoticeable.
Yeah, that's
It's
the
not
shadow
invisibility,
walking
it's
thing.
just he's like really unnoticeable.
Again, check out one of Ben's recent videos for
Yeah,
10 different, what
in
was
my
it, 10 different
headcanon,
lore
the
that's just
Primarch
been
with the power
taken
of
out.
invisibility was either
Yeah.
one of the 2nd or the 11th Primarchs. He's the one that had invisibility.
He's
in my
still
head.
hanging around. Nobody's noticed. That's why, because that's where he's one of the main Primarchs. Oh, can you switch up all there? But yeah, so I posted this little dot. It wasn't even a rant. It was just saying, hey, enjoy your games. Don't get too tangled in the background and lore of the games to basically just not have fun with the games.
I reposted and said,
it's really cool.
wise words, you know.
It was a decent post, but unfortunately, like the rest of the internet last week, it exploded.
Oh, Nick's dying. There we go. He's back.
Expecting what happened next.
Never ever try and tell people to just be nice to each other and have fun. The last guy who did that, it didn't end well for him.
Yeah, it was. I didn't expect it to happen. My reason I didn't expect it to happen, guys, is I've been 20 years disconnected from the games.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have what I feel no authority or influence in that space. I just wanted to show, hey, I'm old. I used to play these games back in the day. What's happening now? It's fine. Trust me. You worried about law changes? Trust me. Back in the day until now, you knew what the law, the World Trade stuff was back in the day, and to what 40k is now. You'd have conniption fits. If basically one tiny thing that's changed that causes obsession fit. You'd be like having heart attacks all the time. And the post exploded. Absolutely exploded. In fact, my follower count went from like a measly 1,500 to like I'm over like 3,500 right now, which is like, for me, it's like, why are you guys following me? I'm not that interesting.
It's the daily dad joke, clearly.
Daily dad jokes, that's what it is.
Yeah. Follow Nick online for those.
Yeah. So I dealt with a weird week, and a lot of it was a lot of affirmation. People coming out saying, "Hey, I remember you when I was 12 years old. I read your White Dwarf." You know, like Luke was doing to me right now, making me feel really old, but in a good way, mate. I was like, "This is cool," and I was getting those affirmations. People going, "Yeah, this is great." I'm going, "Wow, I actually helped a lot of people understand and play and enjoy this hobby," and that made me feel like really warm and nice inside. Like, yay, I did something good, yay! And then basically there was a whole other darker side where,
yeah, of course,
some reason, and I've never got this until in my entire life, maybe because I grew up in the 90s, and if you did this to somebody's face, they usually punch you in the face. They basically, I got, let's just say, lots of insults. That's a good word to describe. Some interesting character definitions. Again, interesting. Some threats of onto my body, which is like, really, if you saw me in real life, you wouldn't try that. But it's the internet, and people on the internet are stronger and bolder and more cowardly in many ways than they would be. I'll probably get some crap for that too. But it was a very interesting week of highs and lows. Some threats. Apparently, somebody stepped beyond the actual taking the internet and tried to basically get me thrown out of a convention. That happened over the weekend. The thing is, guys, don't try that, because all the conventions I go to, they know me. It's like, are you sure you're talking about Nick? He's that quiet Englishman in the corner.
We should probably clarify, these are cartoon conventions, aren't they, for your graphic novel series?
These are comic book conventions, yes. So my graphic novels, stuff like this. So they're trying, and it's like, it's this weird Constantino effect of me basically saying, hey, it's really cool, guys, it's fun, enjoy yourselves, don't worry about this, don't worry about that. And I call these people outrage tourists. And I actually, the phase I'm developing is, the last time they probably rolled a dice was playing the game with a Monopoly. So, or even Snakes and Ladders, as some people have pointed out. So it was a very weird time of like, what I did was really help people, really elevate people in the hobby, which is like great, and a really dark part of like, where are these fucking people coming from? But it made me sit down and think, and Ben got like a weird message from me about this, going, I'm thinking about coming back.
People never leave. They never truly get out of the hobby.
Well, I was kind of out by a lot, because, you know, my free time is very, very, very compacted with everything else I do. And I said, I'm thinking about coming back, and maybe if I come back and show what I'm doing and show the fun I'm having, we can probably, bring some lightness and fun into basically what we're trying to do, which I'm making myself sound more grandiose than I actually ever was.
No, I wholeheartedly agree.
But it's like, it upset me that basically there's this missing of joy in some people. And all I ever tried to do back in my day was basically show how much fun I was having. And I think if I come back and do this and start gaming again, and in many ways just talk about it a little bit, share some of my exploits,
Yeah,
also
like
have a little bit more of a better ripple, because it's what we do in our life, in our lives, my friends, that basically define us into eternity. So I just want to have a little bit more of a positive impact into what's going on. So I sent that weird thing to Ben, and he probably went, "Oh my god, I've put him back. What have I done?"
I'm like, yay! More people playing with toy soldiers. 8 miniatures, brilliant!
Yes. So, but then that started me on the journey of basically trying to figure out how do I get back. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to join you guys and basically go, where do I go next? I picked up a box set. I'm thinking Kill Team is my entry level. You guys have suggested these combat patrols. I didn't write it down. I couldn't remember. I forgot straight away. And it's like, this is a place to head forward. I don't know where this journey is going to take me or where it'll end up and that sort of thing. It's certainly not going to be like the rhythm that basically I worked in White Dwarf, because I got a lot of my toy soldiers for free. And that's not a thing anymore. And the prices are a lot, I will admit. So
when I did my video about the sunken treasure, I did a quick price comparison using an inflation calculator, and actually stuff is slightly cheaper now comparatively to how stuff, for example, like the Falcon Grav tank now comparatively is slightly cheaper than the ones that disappeared under the Atlantic 20 something years ago.
Just doesn't feel like it when you're spending your money though.
No, because unfortunately wages haven't kept up, but there we go.
No.
I was going to say,
Sorry, Ben, please.
No, go. I was going to say.
Well, I'm just saying that basically, remember back in my day when I was basically really head deep in the hobby, I wasn't really paying for my stuff.
No.
So,
and when you were paying at like weight price.
And when I was
you really
paying,
do feel that as well, don't you? When you start actually paying for stuff you were getting for free. Yeah.
I used to get this shit for free. What on earth?
Yeah.
Become a celebrity and the stuff that you want to do, and they give you stuff for free.
What I was going to say was the time when you and Paul and Gav and Adrian and Wood and all of that kind of gang were working on White Dwarf really does feel to me like kind of a golden age of White Dwarf. And I think the reason for that is the positivity and the absolute just love of the hobby shone through from the pages. Like sometimes White Dwarf can feel like a little bit like it's
a bit regimented.
It is what it is, and it's a sales magazine. It's there to show you what the latest stuff for sale is so that you spend money on it.
Yeah,
that never quite felt like that.
No,
back then.
I think,
and so if you can bring some of that positivity back to the hobby, I'm all for it.
I mean, the best compliment I can give,
160 to about maybe even 250 or something like that, which is brilliant. That was like one of the golden eras of White Dwarf. I
was just about to say the best compliment I can give is that during that era, I probably religiously bought and read every White Dwarf. Nowadays, I probably buy the odd one if it looks like it interests me. So, that's what I'll say on that.
Put up here.
Yeah, there you go.
It's an excellent issue.
It's a nice issue. There's some stuff in here I wouldn't have chose to do myself, but that's just me.
There you go.
You would probably enjoy
give Nick a call
for it as well. The issue before has a really good Lord of the Rings battle report in.
I'll see if I can backtrack that one. But I did pick this up because I thought it's only fair that I should look at a modern White Dwarf. And it's nice. I like the paper. I like the layouts. It's not quite, I don't think it's as warm as inviting as what I was doing back in the
day.
Like Ben said, I would agree with like the whole, it does a lot of the time feel like a bit of a catalogue, like the whole marketing side of it. There is a lot more of that in there than there used to be.
There's still some really cool and interesting articles in there. Like
definitely.
There is. It's better than, I mean, there was a really dark phase, weren't there, when we got the weekly White Dwarf and then we got the Warhammer monthly.
We don't talk about the weekly White Dwarfs, please.
That
was a dark era, we'll say that.
Catalogue.
Yeah.
That
No,
was
no,
just
I
insane.
think it's actually a nice magazine, and I love the layouts. The articles are interesting, articles such as they are, because there's a lot of like gaming stuff going on in there, which I don't quite understand, because I don't quite understand how the new rules put together. And the only article that stuck out to me was basically there is how to paint a homagont in there, like in 14 stages, and I was like, we need 14 stages to paint a homagont?
It's getting looking nice.
It looks really cute and it's beautiful and it's heavy metal standard type figure, and that's great. And the paint, the person who paints it is insanely talented, better than I ever was, because I was looking to get the paint on the miniature half the time. But it's like it was that thing that kind of made me go, well, you could do that in 4.
Now, interesting you say that. They have done that in previous issues. They've done.
Oh, I hope so. I'm so happy to hear that. Really
staggered painting ones. They've done it over one page. It's how to do it in 4 steps, and then over the page, it's here are 4 or 5 more steps that you can do.
Yeah, and then
make it
their YouTube channel as well. They do more basic paint jobs on the YouTube channel. They'll say,
that's always going to be the thing, isn't it?
XYZ in with only these 10 paints on the screen, or these 6 paints on the screen, and they just do like a battle ready standard
now,
on the YouTube
so you got
channel.
like YouTube, social media. So now a lot of what would have been in the magazines originally, that would have been the only place for it. Whereas now it can be a lot more spread out.
I have noticed that. I mean, I'm not. Apart from basically, I thought, why is this in 14 steps? I thought the magazine was perfectly fine. Just not as warm. I didn't feel warm reading it, which is just not a terrible thing to say about a magazine. It was just like, it's just to be a little bit more fun and inviting. But back then we had to inject a lot of personality into our stuff, and basically run around and shout a lot and do a lot of hands-on stuff. God help us! Actually, social media was a thing back in the day that broke here. So
I was going to say it kind of takes us really into probably community questions. Okay. Because one of which we had, the first of which we had, was from S Barnett 82. He asks, how many projects do people have on at any certain time?
Too many.
And I mean, you guys can sort of name the main projects that you're sort of working on here and there, I suppose. So is there anything you've sort of seen recently that would tempt you?
Well, I've been looking. Because you got to look around and see what's going on. Things have changed a lot, I will actually admit, from basically when I actually have picked up a toy soldier in anger. Let's go with that. I've actually got some toy soldiers here and there along the way, and I'm looking back at the Imperial Guard, because I am at the end of all things a guardsman in terms of basic armor. And I'm looking at the Imperial Guard, and I really like the look of the Imperial Guard. I'm leaning towards the Cadian stuff, because it's basically
the new Cadian stuff is really nice.
They look really nice, and also I always saw the Cadians as the generic Imperial Guard. So I'm looking at those, and I'm going to reveal something in a few minutes. But I think I'm going to be looking back in that area now. I don't own an army that's a modern army. I just don't. And modern by basically is. The army I own is complete and huge, is it's over 2 decades old. So I don't have anything that basically confirms the new rule sets and new armies, that sort of thing. And whilst I've been, checking in on Games Workshop and that kind of thing, and the hobby and what's been going on and that kind of thing, and even basically reading the lore that got me into trouble earlier this week. I've not played the game system for probably, I'm going to say, I guess Lord of the Rings does count, but even at that point, it's been 10 years since I've actually sat down across the table against somebody and played an actual war game against them. So I roll into basically my local games, not my local games, my local comic book store, because basically I'm in America, and they got all these racks full of all this Games Workshop stuff, which it's now called Warhammer. I think it's called Warhammer now.
Yeah.
Is Games Workshop still a thing, or is it just like Warhammer now? It's kind of like that.
I call it Games Workshop. The stores might be rebranded to Warhammer, but it's like,
I think everybody does.
I'm going to go to Games Workshop.
I call it GW.
I figure it's just a rebrand. Like basically, the Warhammer is more evocative over basically saying Games Workshop, which is very.
Because when you talk to people that I think that aren't into, like, have heard of Warhammer, they've probably heard of Warhammer, not Games Workshop. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It makes sense to kind of, I think, rebrand it, and then people are like on the high street, oh, Warhammer, okay, I know that's where Warhammer's sold, rather than
I think personally, the studios just got sick of hearing complaints from store staff saying people were walking in asking if they've got the latest copy of, like, PlayStation or whatever in. Just absolutely.
That's what I mean.
Do you sell PlayStations? No, you want game.
Funnily enough,
GameStop, that we call it over here.
when
I went to the comic book store and basically somehow managed to buy any comic books, which actually is actually kind of impossible because.
Yeah. Ooh, which one's that?
And I looked at the back rack and going, okay, I did this shit 20 years ago. And it's probably the wrong word to use. So I did this stuff 20 years ago. How hard can it be for a guy who stepped away from the hobby in terms of actual proper gaming to get back into gaming? And I just saw this these wall of toy soldiers. And I'm going, I have no bloody idea what to get. Even where to really start. So I poked at a couple of rule books here and there, and I'm thinking, how do I do this, and where do I go? I'm obviously leaning towards 40k over Warhammer. Age of Sigmar. There we go. Right. They had to change everything 2 years after I leave.
I was going to say, actually, that was probably pretty close to just after you. Yeah,
had no idea. Actually, 2008, I believe it was. I think it was Age of Sigmar. I mean, I'm sure one of the
surely it was more recent than that, wasn't it? Mid 2014 or something.
I think
it just up on 9 years.
I left, and basically everybody decided to put all the toy soldiers around bases. So, but I had no idea where to start, what to start with, and what I'm looking at the rule systems. I actually have not played a game in anger for such a long time. I don't even know where to go there. Now, obviously, 40k is a place I want to lean towards because basically it's my comfort place. It's warm, it's welcoming, it's Ghibli horrors and that kind of fun stuff.
Really, yeah.
And plus, it has Imperial Guardsmen, which is great.
And tanks.
And tanks. Tanks are great. They're very expensive when you're not actually inside the hobby. You're inside Warhammer. It's like, oh my god, I've got to pay real world prices now. But I think I'm going that way. So we're looking at the Guardsman stuff.
That'd be good.
I'm thinking that Kill Team might be my gateway because it's small forces.
Good way in.
Basically easier on the pocket strings. So
eBay is your friend.
Maybe we'll actually get like a
combat patrol. That would be what Luke was about to say.
Sorry, please carry on.
No, sure. So you were about to say they're like the start collecting boxes or the battle forces, as they were.
Yes, yeah.
They've launched a new way of playing both kind of 40k and Age of Sigmar. Age of Sigmar's got its own version coming out, which is that basically everything that's in the battle force sets, as was used to be called, is balanced roughly, hand wavy enough, to play against all the other battle forces. So you don't need to worry about kind of going away and getting, writing army lists and stuff. You can just buy the battle force set, the combat patrol box.
Okay.
And I think I haven't actually bought one of the combat patrol boxes since they rebranded them, but I think they come with the unit rules for all the models that are in the box printed on like the instruction
leaflet. It is a nice, easy way to get in. So
you can just play against somebody else with a combat patrol.
Yeah.
So if I went into my local comic book store, I keep saying Games Workshop because they don't exist around there. My comic book store and say, hey, get me a Imperial Guard Battle Force. It would give me everything I need in the box to basically start in terms of rules and toy soldiers.
It should do.
You can get the free core rules online nowadays, like a restricted version of them, like core rules. We're talking to be able to kind of start it. Yeah.
And I think that combat patrol for the Imperial Guard, I think it comes with a tank, doesn't it?
So I've just looked. It comes with one of the new style Sentinels.
Okay, I've seen those.
Like two of the big kind of field gun artillery piece guns.
Ooh, that's what
and then I think 20 Cadians and a Cadian command squad.
Okay, cool.
No tank, but one of the Sentinels.
Yeah.
Done and dusted.
They would look a little confused because they'd go, it's now called a Combat Patrol Astra Militarum because it's copyrightable.
I wonder why they changed it. Now that makes some sense. Yeah. So if I basically picked up a combat patrol, that would be a good place to start.
Cheapest way as well because it's technically kind of a discounted box in a way, so you're getting everything for a better price.
Yeah. The only other thing I would say is if you can find one cheap enough on eBay, look for the Cadia Stands box.
Ooh, good point.
Because
I get it. Yeah,
that's got a lot in the box. It's good. It's a good value box.
That was the army starter box they did when they did
it's got
guard.
Yeah,
put them down in the comments.
The problem is it's got the codex in it from last time, which is redundant now, but it is a limited edition codex.
It is, but it's just not the valid rules. Well, I suppose it is the valid rules because it does have the rules for the unit entries at least until they update.
Well, not really, but it's got lovely artwork on it.
That's all that matters.
Okay,
But
well,
yeah,
I understand, guys. That sounds like a good place to start. So, what I have done, and this is, because we'll discuss how I ended up back in this situation in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, I was
What
going
I
to
have-
bring that up. So
What I have done is basically I went onto Amazon, which is a dangerous place to go here in the US. I don't know how bad it is in the UK.
It was
And
dangerous.
I did some poking around and such stuff is, and I have actually ordered a box of Cadian Guardsmen, basically a unit. So
hey.
these are the first toy soldiers I have actually brought. If we count I guess we probably should count BattleTech in that, because they are technically toy soldiers, in like 6 years.
Nice.
Excellent.
So
So it begins again.
so it begins again. Yes, which you can go alongside all my Lego collecting and my comic book and stuff. Because
I can't say that
Is
I'm
this
not
going to be a resurrection of the 95th Cadian Rifles?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be like the 96th Cadian Rifles?
Yeah.
I haven't quite decided yet. I'm going to think it's probably going to be a return of the 95th because it's time. It is beyond time. I mean, we can change a few things around here. I'm not going to have access to a Chainsaw Warrior, which is going to be unfortunate.
eBay. No, seriously. After we
eBay.
had our chat last year, I had a look on eBay, and they're not that expensive. The Chainsaw
Really?
Warrior
There you go.
model. Yeah,
In that case, I should take a look.
15, 20 pounds cash.
Oh, that's
UK
nothing.
money.
That's nothing.
No, it's it.
Although I will be bothering you on Twitter probably to get the lizard men going again, but that's another hot thing entirely.
Yeah. Let me get a small platoon or two of Imperial Guard going, and I'll probably look back at the Lizardmen and go, "Yeah, I'm feeling
Nice,
cold-blooded
nice.
now. Let's do that."
Have you seen the new models for the Lizardmen as well?
Absolutely,
Seraphon are gorgeous nowadays. Yeah.
absolutely. They started out as basically as Gordon Davison would call it, and I agreed with him totally. The plastic Lizardmen were basically guys in Lizardmen suits. So,
Like Godzilla, just stomping
yeah,
around.
pretty much. So what they look like now is just absolutely mind blowing. I just love the fact that basically we've moved from the white metal stuff, where it's limiting in some ways to put stuff together, to this plastic resin materials, and what you can pull out of it, this change in material, the sculpts, that you're getting the toy soldiers that basically the figure designers back in the day were trying to make, but didn't have the medium to express it in. So now it's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing what they can do now. But I'll come off of that. If you guys don't mind, I might as well quickly lay out what the projects I've got going on.
Go for it, dude.
Seraphon, as people know, that is one of my current projects going on. Nearly got the full 2,000 points painted, ready for the new last Warhammer World narrative event for Age of Sigmar, which will be middle of May. So that's my main project going on. So I'll be throwing some of those pictures Nick's way on social media, as I say. Flaunting the Seraphon. Yeah. And then other than that, I've just kind of been this last week just started to build a few more of the Tomb Kings again for the old world. That's another project going on. So I've got the dragon built and painted, the bone dragon, and I've just built up some skeleton warriors. Today actually I've finished building up 20 pikemen. Other than that, obviously my Space Marines that Warhammer recently flaunted on their paid stream, that's done. That was sort of my early year project, but I'm planning for next year's March from a Crag to do another 1,000 points, so keep an eye out for that. And I'll add another 1,000 on. Maybe we'll wait and see how much time I've got for that. But that's kind of my main projects, so I'll keep it short and sweet at that. Obviously, as I'm sure the guys will say as well, there are many boxes of other things that I could say are projects, but those are the main ones I'm working on here and there, let's say that. Ben, so which one of you wants to go with sort of what you would say are your current ongoing projects that you're working on?
Side, do you want to go first?
Yeah, go on then, I will. So Tomb Kings I'm working on for Old World. I'm still doing Legions Imperialis Epic Space Marines. My problem is I always start projects and never quite finish them. I'm terrible for it. The latest one I've got on the desk, and Ben will appreciate this, I think, as well, is Blood Bowl Gnomes.
You got the box, didn't you? Yeah, and you did the unboxing on your channel.
A murderous badger that I've built earlier as well. I've got Star Wars Shatterpoint on my desk. I've got some battle droids that I've done. What else have I got going on? Too many things. I'm messing about with Dreadfleet over there. Got that back out again.
Caradron, was it? You said your Caradron.
Caradron Overlords as well. Yeah, I'm waiting on those. I've not done anything else with them apart from undercoat a couple.
Yeah.
So I'm terrible for it, starting and not finishing projects.
Ben?
Okay, I'm gonna put aside stuff that, like, I started doing like a Night Haunt and a Stormcast army for Age of Sigmar, but then I'm now just those are shelved until the new edition lands. They'll
Maybe
come
say
back out.
this year, shall we say? Last
No,
year.
I'm not even promising that.
Oh, okay, fair
They
enough.
are for the moment. They were working on earlier this year. Now they're shelved until then. So they'll put those to one side. But so actively working on my 5th edition Empire army for my 5th edition event later this year. But also on square bases, I'm adding some more units to my dwarves because I want to do the Grudge of Drong 5th edition campaign as a series of videos. So I've got a unit of 15 Iron Breakers on the go at the moment, in between doing other bits and bobs. I got distracted by just hey, what would happen if I painted up a High Elf in the colour scheme of the Tears of Isha campaign pack art? And then when that was really cool, I enjoyed painting that. Okay, so I'll paint a few more. So I've got a Shadow Warrior and an Illyrian Reaver and a White Lion, all kind of trying out variants on that colour scheme. Then I went, okay, well, elves are quite fun. I've got some dark elves in a box. I wonder how they would look. I need something to look nice in the cabinet next to the high elves. So there's a witch elf, a corsair, and a shade, and kind of scout, all kind of behind me on the shelf at the moment, being worked on. I've got the Orc Epic army that I started last year, 3rd edition Epic 40,000, that I'm still trying to get painted. Just because I promised my friend Murray from my Taylor 4 Gamers video series that he's got a whole Blood Angels type army that he's working on for Epic. And we're going to get a game in later this year when we've got them painted. So that's on the go. I've got my Fantasy Fellowship behind me, which is, I think, 4.5 of them done. I've got the Ring Bearer and 3 Dwarves done, and Aragorn partway done, but I've still got the rest of those to finish painting. And I've also got the 5 Ring Wraiths from Weathertop on the other side of them, which 4 of the 5 Ring Wraiths are done, but I've got the new plastic Witch King to go with them, still waiting to be painted. And I've got my Halfling Blood Bowl team for our Blood Bowl League that is still on the go. And I've got the Eldar Battlefleet Gothic fleet that I started last year that is only about 85% done and needs finishing. So in terms of projects on the go, I've got all of the... and there's the new, the old world Chaos Army that I started that I've gotten, like, it all based now, but I've only kind of got some of them painted. Some of them are still waiting for more paint to go on them.
No. So not much then.
So not much.
Just new hobby projects on the go. I just actually flip from one to another.
The other thing I probably will also have on pretty shortly will be my Snotlings team. I'm planning to get those in the beginning of next month, so that'll be a little project as well. So yes, many projects.
I've got my team name as well, by the way. For
go on. What are your names going to be called?
The Whimsical Waffles.
I love it. Oh, awesome.
And my treemen are going to have like a 80s WWF wrestler style name. So Brutus the Barker Beefcake. And then Mean Gene Orca Hand.
Oh, awesome.
I've still got to have a think through what the name of mine's going to be, but that'll all come next month.
I'm trying to work out some food-based Welsh name pun, like something that
Welsh
sounds like a really it sounds like a really kind of phlegmy kind of Welsh word, but then also translate into a food-based item for my halflings. I'm doing them in the Welsh rugby team kit.
Nice.
Just call them the Cheeky Leaks.
The Cheeky Leaks.
Somehow moving on from cheeky leaks, but we do have our second question in from Charax. So we'll keep this as short and sweet as we can, I think. It literally is just, do you guys have any music or podcasts that you stick on in the background during a painting / modelling session? Yes. I will literally keep mine short and sweet and just say usually I'm a big football fan, so football podcasts galore. And a movie / TV related podcast generally. And there's one or two other Warhammer type things I do listen to that, well, not really podcasts, but sort of videos and things like that, weekly ones that I put on. But yeah, what about you guys? Ben, did you want to go first? Go in reverse.
Yeah, okay. So I do audiobooks. Actually, I do audiobooks on Audible. So I'm currently working my way through Manslayer, the Gotrek and Felix novel, which I'd actually never read. I'd gotten as far as...
Which one's Manslayer? How far in?
It's when Nathan Long had taken over from William King. So it's after they did Giant Slayer, then there was a break, then they did Orc Slayer, Man Slayer, Elf Slayer, Zombie Slayer, and it's kind of the second of the 4 Nathan Long books. It's really good. I'm really enjoying it. But yeah, I'll have that on Audible, and I'll be sat happily listening to Go Trek. Come on, Madling, while I'm happily painting stuff.
His voice is so good.
It's really, really good. The guy reading it.
Yeah. Si?
Well, aside from like Warhammer stuff that I listen to while I'm building or painting, I'm a big fan of the Shuttle Pod Show. So that's a podcast by Connor Trinier and Dominic Keating, who played Trip Tucker and Malcolm Reed on Star Trek Enterprise. But they don't just have Star Trek guests on; they do have loads of Star Trek guests on. But they get people from other shows as well. They've had David Blue from Star Trek, from Stargate Universe, and they have people from all the various sci-fi shows and other TV shows, and it's really good. Actually, it's just nice, easy listening. It's family friendly as well. It's pretty well. I wouldn't say too family friendly. There's the odd bit of swearing in it, but it's nothing too bad, if you know what I mean. And it's just really, really good podcast. So yeah, highly recommended, especially if you're a Star Trek fan. They've had some great guests on there.
Nice. Nick, I know, like you obviously, like you say, you're only just going to probably be getting back into things, but obviously, whilst you're possibly working things like that anyway, are there any podcasts or things, or you're cartooning? Is there anything that you possibly listen to?
Well, I listen to a couple of things where even on cartooning or doing other things. Yeah. I do podcast. I listen to a lot of podcasts, comic book podcasts, strangely enough, and some in the gaming world, especially that 9% geek guy. One day he'll actually know what he's talking about. But and also, I also do Lindsay, I actually been recently listened to a lot of Lindsay Sterling, which is basically she's a dubstep violinist type performer. She's really, really good. So recommend listening to it. It's very atmospheric if you're doing atmospheric stuff. Also, speaking of audiobooks, and this is kind of fun as well. I've just finished listening to the last Comic Chicane book, Valgalius.
Oh, cool.
Just got released. I absolutely love those books, and they actually are a big background noise to me when I'm basically cartooning or doing other stuff, because it's funny and hilarious. It's so Lord Flashard and Blackadder, and it's just hilarious. It's taking the setting in 40k and basically giving you an easy inroad into this character who's a complete rogue, but has happens to be in a huge position of authority, who just loves to run away from things but never gets the chance to. So it's great. I love it.
Awesome.
Well, it's the fact that everything is canon, which means that it is entirely canon that there is, an entire planet out there who play cricket and drink tea. And it's entirely canon. There is a Space Marine chapter whose color scheme is themed after the Wombles, and who have names like Chapter Master Bulgaria and Forge Master Tobarius.
I love how the Wombles seem to make a get into every podcast somehow.
Yeah.
Like at the moment,
Yeah, we either get Brave Star or Wombles, don't we? We fit it in every week.
Yeah, so what we'll do, we'll move on to end of the show. Warhammer 20 questions is where we're at now. And Nick, obviously you haven't been on and done it before. You may or may not know the character or unit that we're going to do, but you can definitely work alongside the guys to ask questions. So the way it works, 19 questions. The 20th is your basically answer for what character or unit from the Warhammer universe you think it is. They can have a model, they can not have a model, but they probably definitely have been in the lore. And essentially you're asking me yes or no questions to try and figure out who it is alongside the guys. So you got the guys to help you out to try and guess who it is. But I've had a few suggestions in the last new suggestions in, but the first of which was actually from Rick, who we had on Pointed Painter last week, who sent his own suggestion in. And said he wanted to try and take you guys down. It's not an unbelievable one, don't worry, but it's an interesting one.
This is because we're undefeated, yes.
Yes. I love how you say that every week as if it's got an asterisk next to it.
If I say it enough, then it becomes true.
Like orc beliefs, yeah. Say it enough, it'll happen. But so I guess that's kind of all you need to know, Nick and the guys. So usually I think the guys do get the guest to do the first question. We do let
the guest ask the first question.
So kind of narrowing down maybe kind of game system or something like that is usually.
But it's a yes/no question.
It's a yes or no question. Okay.
So let the questioning begin.
Is this character set in the old world?
No. That's number one.
Okay. Si, should we go clockwise round? So you go next.
I'll go on then, yeah. Does this character or unit reside in the 41st millennium?
No.
Ooh.
It's pointy, isn't it? So I think maybe 31st millennium then.
Well, I mean, it could
He
be.
is a
We haven't
heresy
asked
player.
about the mortal realms. We've asked the old world. We've asked the 41st millennium.
Good point. Yeah.
Does this character reside in the mortal realms?
No, that's 3.
Okay. Ooh. So it's not Sigmar. It's not Warhammer Fantasy, and it's not 40k. That doesn't mean it's not.
I'm guessing heresy. I'm going to put my money on that.
Okay.
Is this character human?
Yes.
So?
Does this character reside in the 31st millennium?
Yes. That's 5.
Okay. Is this character genetically modified?
Yes, that's 6.
Okay, so it's a Space Marine in the Horus Heresy era. We've gotten that far. 6 questions in, we've got that far.
Is this character part of the Solo Auxiliary?
No, I don't believe so, no.
Would this character be considered loyal to the Emperor?
Yes. I would
Okay.
say so, definitely loyalist. If at least... Because obviously, if you think heresy, obviously, like, it's very back and forth, isn't it? So I would say they were known for that,
They
primarily.
were
Yeah.
known. Okay, so it's not just a straight yes. They were known for being loyal to the Emperor, whether they were or
It's like
not.
Garrow, Nathaniel Garrow or something like that.
I believe
Yeah.
that's 8.
So,
So then
okay.
you could ask, is it a leader or maybe?
Yeah, so I'm just well, actually, I think I'm going to ask one of these standard ones, which is there a model of this character or unit?
Yes, there is. That's 9.
Okay.
Or either
So,
of you, to be fair.
We know that it's a Space Marine with a model that is considered to be loyal to the Emperor, but it is not an immediate, yes, that person's loyal. So it's not necessarily going to be one of the obvious ones. Like, it's not.
Only if it's going to be like a trick, like Ancient Rylanor, because he is a Space Marine.
He is. This is true. We don't actually know if they're in a dreadnought armor or if they're in like. We don't know if they're alive at the end of the heresy still. Whether they've make it to the end, that could be a good
point.
question.
Is this character part of one of the legions?
That's a very good question. He's getting so red, trying to find the way to phrase his answers. A yes or no.
We broke him again.
It's more. So at one point, yes.
Okay, I think you may be on
because
something's
heresy
side.
can be a bit weird like that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say at one point, yes, not considered to be primarily, is what I'll say.
Okay, I think you're on something, Si.
Garrow or Lorcan or someone like that.
Yeah, like one of the Knights of the Sigillite.
Was this character once considered a member of the Death Guard?
No,
Ooh.
but that's 11. I believe.
Does this character specifically serve the Sigillite?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay, so it's not like one of the proto Grey Knights, the Knights Errant. It's not one of those then. Okay, interesting.
What about a Primarch?
That's true. Well, they would have always been considered to be. Well, at one point, yes, is the way Luke phrased is whether he's a member of the legions. So, Primarchs became members of the legions and became leaders of the legions. Maybe you should ask.
Human? Are they considered human though? Or transhuman?
Well, they're considered human, but transhuman. I asked if they were genetically
So
modified.
I'll help you out a little bit and say that. So, kind of putting together the questions that you've asked already.
Let's recap.
So the character that you're looking for the most part, for everything you know about them that you'll have seen on them, heard about them, whatever, they will be mostly loyal to the Emperor, and they are not part of a legion.
A Space Marine that is mostly. Hang on. Hang on. We've made one big assumption. I said genetically modified. I never asked if they were a Space Marine.
Oh yeah, do they work?
We could be talking Custodes here.
Okay, I'll do this for you guys. Since that's an easy question to ask, and I actually may understand the order, the answer. Is this character a Space Marine?
Yes.
Damn it. Okay, so they're not a member of the Custodes. Okay. They are a Space Marine. They are not expressly part of a legion, but nor are they a member of the Sigillites Knights Errant. loyal as far as people know to the Emperor, but not always part of the legions.
Maybe Thunder Warrior, maybe?
Would you class the Thunder Warriors as a
Church.
Space Marine, though?
Yeah. What was the guy called in the Outcast Dead?
There was
Thunder
a
Warrior.
Thunder Warrior in there, but would they? But no, he didn't have a model, and we know that this model, this
good
character,
point.
had a model. So hang on a minute. What we need to do now is work out Space Marine characters
I believe
that
that
had
was
a
12,
model.
by the way, but I could be wrong on that.
Had a model, but aren't necessarily part of the Space Marine legions.
Black Shield?
There's that new one that just came out. It's the one who was a World Eater and then became a Black Shield. So we could ask if they're a Black Shield. We could ask if they're a member of a particular legion.
Is this a member of the Black Shields or the
It
Splintered
is.
Legions?
It is. So that's 13.
Were
they
they a
Shadrach
member
Medusa
of?
as well?
Were they a member of the World Eaters Legion?
They were.
Would this
Well-
particular character be considered hard?
Hard.
Hard as nails.
Yeah, you definitely could say that, yes.
Hard
Take it
as
away,
the
Ben.
butcher's nails. Is it Endrid Har?
It is Endrid Har, the Rivenhound, yes, of the Black Shields, once of the World Eaters. Certainly is.
Hey.
Defeated by Abaddon himself, eventually, actually, so he did...
Came very close to killing Abaddon, though.
Yeah, he did, yeah. But got abandoned by Angron at the time, and formed the Black Shields, which is pretty awesome.
Cool
So-
miniature as well.
It is.
Yep.
A lot of people, I think, are looking at this and thinking Carcharodons because it just screams like it needs to be painted up as a Carcharodon space shark.
Breaker literally
yeah, 'cause
just had a new model as well. Like
That's
The,
nice
the
armor.
bit on his backpack, if you cut the spikes off the top, you can just leave the shark's teeth
Artificer armor,
Yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
underneath.
So, yes, awesome stuff. So thanks, Rick, for that suggestion. A good one. I don't think we've had a heresy one technically yet either, have we?
No,
So
we
that's
haven't.
quite good to
Well,
have one.
unless you count the Emperor.
Hmm.
Yeah, I guess you could actually. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, thanks, Rick, for your suggestion. If you want to get your own suggestions in, guys, for Warhammer 20 questions for future weeks, we have a few already, but I definitely like to have a list to pick from each week to challenge the guys and any guests that we have on.
Undefeated.
Undefeated, yeah. So please do send those in, wargamingluke@gmail.com. Send those through email to me or messenger or whatever you want to do. That'd be great to have more suggestions in. But we'll round up the show because it is late here in the UK, and I'm sure Nick has better things to get on with. So thanks so much, Nick, for joining us, mate, and for basically putting out your cards on the table that you are going to be rejoining. We have it now. We have it signed off. We expect to see
Get
these
him back
Imperial
on
Guard.
for a progress update at some point.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So
You can punch
thanks
it
so much.
down and going, oh my god, what did I do to myself? Yeah.
And also,
I appreciate
let
you guys
everybody know as well what you do and
What do I do?
what's going on. Yes, yeah, currently.
That's something that my girls has often said is, what do you do up there all day? The reason I'm probably 20 years disconnected from gaming is basically I moved on to doing many other things. In the last 3 to 4 years, I've been working on a series of books called The Night Guardians, which is a series for all ages adventures, fantasy adventures set in a world where basically teddy bears and cuddly toys protect you from the monsters under the bed. Now, I've been heavily influenced by the 80s fantasy stuff there, so it's basically think of them as dark fantasies like The Labyrinth or even Dark Crystal, and these are self-contained stories similar to like the books like The Amulet. You can tell I've done this sort of stuff before in conventions. And basically, they are basically self-contained stories. And I've just finished a book called, we saw this earlier, Let's Hunt Monsters. It's everyday story of a teddy bear called Mr. Buttons. Mr. Buttons flying down on my Cthulhu lookalike there with a baseball bat. And his basic premise of this guy is it's heavily influenced by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle and the 2000 ADs of my youth. Did we just lose Ben?
Yes, we did. Yeah, I'll get him back in a second.
Okay, and it's a fun adventure comic book. Just came out, just did all the artwork for this, and the basic premise of this character is he hits the monsters with a baseball bat until they stop moving, and it's a homage to the 2000 ADs of my youth and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles of my youth too. So it's a fun comic book, and I enjoyed it, and it's what I've been doing for the past few years. now in between my day job, and now basically I'm going to find time between doing cartooning, playing Lego, and a lot of wonderful things I have to do to keep this house going in the middle of deep darkest Pennsylvania, and now paint toy soldiers and play with them. So it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be an adventure, and I like adventures. Adventures are cool. And I want to say one thing before we move on. Thank you for inviting me on here. I appreciate it. Thank you, Ben, for basically waking me up again. I've been asleep for a very, very long time. And it's good to see you. You poked me a lot, mate. And thank you, Simon, for saying hello and stuff like that. And you, Luke, for basically inviting me on your podcast, even though you were like 2 when I first started this hobby. So,
well, to be fair, when you said that you'd started up in like 95, I was like, yeah, okay. But yeah, it's nice though, because as I say, that era of White Dwarf where you wrote was kind of my first years where I really got invested into the hobby. So it's kind of so it's been a pleasure, mate, honestly, to hear your stories and to have you on.
Oh, thank you. It's a real pleasure being here. Thank you very much.
And please send me the links to all of your different things going on, your channel, your podcast, and of course your books and where people can find those, your graphic novels. And I will drop those so people can check those in the description below the video. Please do. Nick does some fantastic work. And you can obviously follow him as well over on Twitter. So
X/Twitter, where we call it. These kids call it nowadays. So.
But yeah, guys, thank you too, of course. Ben, 90% Geek, where can we find you, my friend, and what you're up to?
You can find me over on my own channel, 90% Geek, and I'm over on Twitter, Instagram, all the other social places with that same handle. And I will mostly be continuing to paint lots of mad projects. I had a plan for this week's video. Now I think that plan has gone out the window, and I'm currently thinking, just off the cuff, to do an entire video about the history of the White Dwarf, because his new model has inspired me that much. So I think that may be this week's video now.
Nice. Si, where can we find you, and what are you up to?
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube as Hobby Waffle. Same for Twitter and Instagram as well. At the minute, I'm working on gnomes ready for our Small Nations League. Latest video, I've just done an unboxing of the gnomes and the treeman as well. So that video went up yesterday, so kind of see the kit and see a couple of the built examples. It's on there for you to have a look at. But yeah, that's my focus for the next week. So getting these gnomes done and painted up, ready to get destroyed probably by you two in Blood Bowl.
Well, aren't we? But both of us are also playing what you technically say a poor team. So
Yeah,
that's true, yeah.
None of us do well, and we just.
I've had a quick look at the rules for the gnomes. That fox looks a bit feisty as well, and the tree man as well, so it should be quite fun.
The fact they've all got wrestle and jump up as well makes them a really kind of fighty team for the gnomes.
That's it. Awesome.
Little
But yeah, go
stabby
check
gnome.
out Si's unboxing on his channel, because he's just unboxed the whole thing. So
Sounds like quite a little league going on.
yes, we have literally.
That's what we should have got. Never like the Small Nations, the Little League. I can't
That's
believe
true,
we missed
actually,
that.
That's what we got Nick on for.
Yes, there we go.
So name the Blood Bowl league that we're doing.
The Little League.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks. Do go and check everybody out. And just for myself, I'll be here, dragging everybody else onto the podcast. But otherwise, you can check me out, obviously, on social media, wargamingluke. I'll be, like I say to Nick, dragging everybody into the Seraphon ranks. Otherwise, until next week, guys, thanks so much for watching. We've been Morehammer, and thanks very much. We'll see you next time. Happy wargaming, guys.
You take care now.
Bye.
Yeah, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.